Um, this screen is up here, Intake to Keys, Ending Homelessness and Reversing the Cycles of Poverty. And I'm gonna walk over here real quick. I'm gonna start with a broad level movie now this is not my PC. We've had a few technical difficulties tonight, so I'm not 100% sure on which edit that I'm showing you of this video. Not that there'd be anything bad in the movie, but just not entirely sure what's in this film. So we're gonna watch it, have a little fun with that, although it's not a fun, I'm really gonna bring this crowd down briefly. I gotta tell you, this stuff is not a comedy that we're talking about tonight. But thanks for having me here. I'm super pumped to be a part of what we're talking about to affect change in Toledo. And I really do want to thank Gene. In the last 4 or 5 months now, Gene has become a true partner as an individual and all his organizations to Cherry Street. And so Gene, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So give him a little hand, would you? He doesn't get enough. A little bigger, it's okay. All right, let me go to escape here. Oh. Great. Well, thanks for that video. We're gonna revisit what the abyss is. If you guys want to join that way, that'd be great. Or if you can see me, that's fine too. I'm gonna take Allie's handiwork off here. We're gonna talk a little bit about what we're doing down at Cherry Street in a pretty specific way tonight. You could see in a pretty broad spectrum what we're doing there. How many of you have been familiar with Cherry Street Mission Ministries over the years? Quite a few. All right, great. Well, we're going through some changes. However, those changes don't eliminate in any way, shape, or form what we've been doing in this community for 47 years. Homelessness is actually a relatively new problem. I know that seems like an odd thing to say. Is this mic okay? All right. I know that seems like a relatively odd thing to say, but it actually only really began at the end of World War II when a lot of veterans came home, and right down in this area in Cherry Street, our founders, the Flex, started to serve those individual veterans who, instead of finding home in their own houses or instead of finding home within their own person, they were finding home by sitting essentially on Skid Row and drinking in bars, and they created community that way. And so what happened there is we found the industry, the mechanization of the sandwich. And by putting the assembly line of a sandwich together, we were able to feed great groups of people. And unfortunately, there were great groups of people to be fed. So we have seen that. Exist within our community for a very long time here. So that's the roots of who we are as an organization. And what we have been doing for many years, while most of us have been alive, has been providing refuge for those men and women who live on the streets or don't have their home or access to a home, or for whatever reason, even if it's just for one night, need a place to stay. And many of them come to us for a meal as well. And so that's not changing. What we are, however, embracing in a pretty significant way is helping to create a permanent solution to what most of us see and have talked about in the past as the homeless problem. But what I want to talk about real briefly is that homelessness is not houselessness. Houselessness I don't even think is a real word, but it works here. So having said that, it doesn't only mean somebody who can't have access to a house. Housing really is not the problem. There is a lot of houses to be had. However, if an individual moves into a house and they don't have any means to make an income, they don't have any furniture in that house, and they have no support around them in any way, shape, or form, they still very much are in homelessness. In fact, an individual can be homeless and live in a home with another family. We call that double up homelessness. I experienced that in my childhood, where my family for 3 years had to live by the support of another family. And, you know, that's okay. It is what it is. However, it's not what we normally think of. And so I want us to have that framework, that we're not just talking about a roof over somebody's head. The second thing is homelessness is not the problem itself. In fact, homelessness is merely an outcome of the problem. The core roots of the problem, of course, stem from poverty, which is what Cassie in the video was talking about. her own poverty, that while she stood at the edge of the abyss. Now her outcome of that poverty was drug use. If you were able to hear that, that's what she talked about. And through her time spent at Cherry Street, she was able to graduate from all of our RAP programs and be able to take her through a time where she was able to get the support she needed in her everyday life and live a life that you and I probably are more used to. So if you go ahead to the next one. Thanks, Allie. See, maybe. Yeah, click on that. See what happens. All right, something, yeah. I don't know where this is in the presentation, but I'm going to talk about it. So the meal absolutely still matters to us. And what we are doing, I'm going to draw a picture here. This is nice. Did you get that on the video? That's excellent, because I want to make sure that it's on film. This is a really great picture of our Madison Avenue facility, but the Madison Avenue building is closing down very soon. We've sold the property, and many of you would picture Cherry Street's ministry and function in society being this picture right here, and in a huge way it is. We provide, without question, meals to hundreds of people every day. In fact, we provide more meals to people than those who would stay with us. The meal is incredibly important, but we're opening a state-of-the-art kitchen at our new facility. And so that meal is where a huge part of our relationship starts with any individual when they come to join with us. Imagine yourself being in a circumstance where possibly you no longer have your job infrastructure. Possibly a circumstance has been created in your life where your spouse or significant other has said they're done with you, you don't have that infrastructure. More than likely, if you have children, those children have also said to you, you know what, nope, Mom, Dad, you can't come stay with me. I can't do anything for you, and you found yourself in that circumstance. Believe it or not, for quality professionals, people with master's degrees, it happens all the time. And so they walk into our doors, and they're going to walk into the state-of-the-art kitchen where maybe one day last week they were able to come into our kitchen and pay for a meal, because at the new kitchen you'll be able to come in and buy your own meal if you want to just hang out there, and it's really great nutritional and excellent food. So you might want to come in and do that. That's not an advertisement for the restaurant, by the way. It just happens to be nutritional. So if you wanted to come in and do that, maybe last week you were able to, and this week now you're standing there and you're saying, now I can't. So you come in and you say, I need food. I need a meal. And we are going to give you a meal. But also at that moment, we're going to sit down and join with you right at the hip, one of our advocates who are just a crack team of individuals that are highly trained in the vertical person and what happens inside a person. And they're going to sit down and start an assessment process with that individual. And if that's you, they're going to sit down with you and talk to you and say, you know, Gene, I'm here to help you. What's going on in your life that brought you down for a meal today? And that's exactly where that joining starts, that intake moment that occurs. That's why the meal still really matters. In that same kitchen, we have OCC, Owens Community College, will be providing education for a culinary arts school, exactly the same as they do at their culinary arts school. However, if you were to say somebody that lives down this street that is just starting to go from being in a meal to where they can get their infrastructures and their systems in place to be able to go to college and tell them, yep, you know what, we need you to go down to Oregon Road to Owens Community College and take their culinary class, that's the exact same thing as saying you need to go to Rwanda. A doctor that I was talking with today said, it's the exact same thing as saying go to the moon or to the Mars. And they're right. Because the bridge to that is too great. So that's why we are joining them in this community. And on the other side of that, like I told you, we're going to have a restaurant in there, and so that we have a social enterprise. That's what this says, social enterprise. Believe it will. You graduate from Owens Community College, inside the same kitchen, you'll be able to work, and then of course serve a meal where you came in at the moment of intake to receive a meal. And of course then be able to go out to the community, maybe right here into this kitchen, and work at Manhattan's. When you're thinking about this, I want you to consider this corner right here at Adams Street, right across the street from us. Think about that corner and what we want that as a community of people to look like. in the next 3 to 5 years? Does it stay that way, or does it change dramatically? You know, we have a garden that's behind this building over here, and that's a wonderful thing, but the more and more entrepreneurs that graduate, that at one moment were in need of a meal, that graduate into being entrepreneurs for themselves because now they have the skills to do it, then that's when we start to see buildings put up, restaurants put up, manufacturing put up, because it's not only food service in our community that what we're doing down there. We have auto tech, building trades, we have building trades, I said that already. We have a lot of other things. We have a call center training, and we have welding and machine shop right now. That is all, we are recruiting students for those classes at the moment. So what does Cherry Street do? If you go ahead and click to the next slide. We join at that moment of intake, exactly like I was talking about. And at that place, you may have heard on the video that we've been an intersection for a very long time. And so we intersect to start down at that bottom, that ground floor that individual has built for themselves. That's where we join them. We climb down into hell in their life and grab a hold of them and say, if you are willing and you can with us, we will help you climb out of that abyss that you're in. And that is what Cherry Street is trained in, is in that vertical human being. Because within all of us, we have all kinds of issues and poverties, some of which cause us to crash and hit a ground floor. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. The abyss is, of course, poverty. I'm not sure how many more technical difficulties that I'm going to have today, but hey, I'm the guy standing here, so you'll have to deal with it. Poverty is situational in a lot of cases. When we think of the word poverty, we often think of economics, right? When we hear poverty, we think of how much money somebody does or doesn't have. We use terms like wealthy and poor. Well, in fact, poverty can be very circumstantial or situational, but the majority of poverty is generational. Once somebody, let's just say a grandparent, the grandparents, the parents, and now the child, that child is in generational poverty once it's hit that third generation. Because as you're already concluding in your minds, that person really doesn't know anything else, right? They've come to a place where their full understanding of life is to live in and exist in poverty. I work at Cherry Street. I get asked all the time, well, did you move out of the corporate and commercial world because you wanted to make a difference? I also get told quite often, Max, you must find that very rewarding. Yeah, of course, all of those things are true. But I came to Cherry Street for myself, entirely for me, because I wanted the poverty that I exist in inside of myself, whether that's my own relationships or my own understanding and identity. I'm glad that my identity has nothing to do with this flip chart right here. But I work within my own identity and understanding who I am. And at the very root of all of us, we may be dealing with the poverty of our own identity and all of the roots that build up. And there's a lot more to say about that. I'm not going to go into it tonight, but to keep it at a very high level, poverty is incredibly different for each individual. And those roots and causes are what brings us into the abyss as a human being. And that's really what we are trying to do in this community to pull out. Go ahead and please take us to the next one. So at Cherry Street, that's exactly what we're doing. And I like this image because if you think of the bottom of that abyss, I'm going to attempt to just flip this. Nope. Hey, Gene, you have a limp chart. I'm just telling you.
I've been told, I've been seeking help.
Okay, good. As long as we're good. So if you think of this image as the abyss, and you have an individual who is here, right at the bottom of the abyss. Well, a lot of what we talk about is the skills gap to go across the abyss, and we do have the vocational programs that will do that. But the problem is if you're standing right here, even if you climb up, and this is what we do at Cherry Street, is help you to climb up out of that so you can stand here. But if you're standing here, if you're down here, you can't even begin thinking about standing here. And so that's really what we try, is to take you through a number of steps. We have the very first thing, if you came into our intake and you said that you're dealing with a significant drug or alcohol program or problem, then we have partners in program where we will line you up if you need to have a year program. Some of those circumstances aren't just general and regular rehab. So if you think about this, a lot of times people say, well, what good is a 30-day rehab program? You might be right. So some of these circumstances, programs that we are partnered with, will let you stay with them for well over a year. You might be thinking, what about the cost to bring somebody into that? We have programs that, the regular fee is around $750 for that individual, but really they'll take something that's of value to them. So if it's a baseball hat or a ring or their favorite pair of shoes, they'll take that with the promise they'll give it back. But the purpose of that is for them to have value into that situation and program. If it's from a circumstance of mental health or a mental health issue, we're not going to try to be experts in that area. There's incredible groups, even downtown here, like a Renewed Mind, that we're partnered with, and we'll send folks there. But if it's another circumstance where it's just some decisions that are being made, or they're just in a relational issue, then we will take them in and tie them to our hips with our experts and climb them up a ladder, which we call Ready for Life, where they go into small groups together. They take huge risk, these individuals, to go into small groups together to be coached, mentored, and cared for by each other and by our mentors to see their life turn around. It's pretty powerful as it happens. And what I have seen over the last few months are we just have had a wonderful young lady come back to Sparrow's Nest and took her mom on a tour of the Sparrow's Nest because she wanted to show her mother where her life turned around. We had a great guy who was at the end of the video who just got his keys last month to his first in his own home and was able to move in. And so change is absolutely happening in lives. Once they come through all of that, we also prepare them with something called Key Train. Key Train takes them through a series of math and writing. Frankly, gets down to some equation problems at the end of that I don't want to solve at this point in my life. Allie, maybe you can do it in high school. There's no chance I want to deal with that algebra. So they're going through that, they get those skills, and then once they do that, they basically are get into a place that if they graduate from that program, they're in a pre-certification point to get into one of our vocational programs, so that when they come out, our promise is to the employers that they will be a whole human being, so that they'll show up on Tuesday. We answer this proverbial or metaphorical Tuesday problem, which says, what's happening in my employees' lives that they don't show up on a Tuesday morning? We've asked questions to a lot of employers. None of our vocational programs are just programs for the sake of having a certification. All of ours are employer-driven. They have said this is what we need. But every single employer we've asked the what question to, what is it that you need? What can we help you with? Every single one of them have answered us with a who answer. I need someone who will show up on Tuesday. Not Tuesday at noon, not Tuesday at 5, which was really not showing up, not maybe on Wednesday, not 2 weeks from Tuesday. I need somebody who will show up on Tuesday. Who are the people that I need? And that's really who we are at Cherry Street, and that's really how we're trying to affect change in this community. Go ahead, Allie. And so that brings us to keys, the intake to keys, that moment that we join people until the moment that we're able to take them to their door with a key in their hand, unlocking that door to their home. That could mean a house. It also could be that moment in their life that really have found home within inside of themselves. And that's really where we're drawing people to in this community. We are seeing success in it. We need a lot more help. There's a lot more to do. That 242,000 square foot building is just merely another outlet of the 14 buildings that we have in this community right now. And I know full well we're only one of many that are doing this, but we are the social enterprise that is determined to end homelessness and reverse the cycles of poverty in this community. I'm asking you to join with me in that, and thanks for letting me speak to you today. Go ahead and click to the next one. The reason that I have this line of people on here before I end is because we are effectively doing our darndest to end the line. If you think of what a line means, that is the cycle of poverty in our community. Whether it's a line for a meal or a line at unemployment, what we want to see completely is the end of the line. And you can help us in that line. We will continue to serve the line well until we get there. Thanks, guys. Just making sure nothing else falls.
Questions for Max, who promises not to drop a microphone.
I don't promise any of those things. I will do my darndest to answer your questions. Comments are welcome as well. Yes, Michael.
When you say you come alongside and you basically intake these people that are bottom of the abyss, is there a common theme that they communicate where they wish they were understood, or something about their life as it is at that point? I wish more people understood it was like this. Like, what do we need to know about where these people are at that makes us understand their situation a little bit better?
That's a wonderful question. So, you know what? I'm gonna break this down as I've tried to in this entire presentation and make it as simple as possible. There's a lot of complexity, but it's not complicated. People are people, right? And so we use terms in the newspaper and even in our own conversations, and we call people homeless people and the homeless as if they're somehow different than we are, and they are not. So the simplest answer to your question is the sheer understanding that all of these individuals are in fact human beings just like each of us. They are in just a different circumstance, and oftentimes, they just need somebody to listen to them, believe in them, and hug them no matter what circumstance that they're living in. Yeah. Next question.
Is there a website or anything more about this?
Yeah, cherrystreetmission.org, cherrystreetmission.org, and I'll give out my business cards, and I do have a couple of flyers laying on the tables.
Is there anything about today's presentation, since I got here late, that I can kind of catch up on? Because I'm really into, I'm in Texas, and I'm trying to relocate back home. This is where I'm from. And so I wanted to really get involved in the startup Twitter meeting and find out what everyone's doing.
Well, I think they're recording it with all of the pitfalls that I had throughout, so you'll get to see all of them. And you can go on, and you can actually go on to Startup Toledo's website and see it. It's a great question.
So I actually have a question. What metrics do you guys use for success?
Wow, that is a great question. So you know what, those are different in every day, but I will tell you the main metric we use for success actually isn't analyzed by numbers or data. It's analyzed by that individual themselves and their response to how we take and have the infrastructure to make sure that we are dealing with individuals on an individual basis instead of macro level. Yeah. But we do. That is not to say that we don't track meals and numbers and the amount of people who come through and graduate. We track all of that for sure.
Just out of curiosity, what's an average number of people you feed a day?
367, I think, is the number. Right now, we are partnering with Feed Lucas County Children in this new kitchen facility. Feed Lucas County Children does exactly that. If you haven't heard of them before, they feed Lucas County children, and they serve about 1.1 million meals. And in that new facility, we'll be serving over 600,000 adults in that facility. But then we will also be expanding to serve the parents of the children via Feed Lucas County Children, right? So it's gonna extrapolate our number exponentially.
So I guess, how do you guys derive funding then?
That's a great question from people just like you. No, I'm only mildly joking. So having said that, we actually don't receive any funding that is public. So all of our funding comes from the private community. That's the real answer. So, but yeah, absolutely it does. We do receive grants from foundations, a lot of corporate giving, but the majority and the bulk of our gifts of our $4.5 million operations budget comes from individuals in the community. The Life Revitalization Center is a $10 million campaign, and so we're seeking a lot of different forms of funding, and through that campaign we will also end up outfitting our operations. So you'll be hearing more about that as you read in the future, for sure.
So do you have a link on your website where private individuals, I guess, can make a donation?
Absolutely, yeah, and please feel welcome to.
Once I get my website up, it's going to be called Dinosaur Us. It's not about the dinosaurs, it's not about the kids, it's about bringing the community together, bonding generations, community together. And I want to be like the main resources for all this kind of stuff.
Great.
You know, so that I can link it to them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Got a question.
Michael.
So let's say you shepherd somebody from the abyss to get up to where they're actually able to go out. The question that some people are going to have, because we're always kind of wondering about this, can you like give a ratio what that success rate is, opposed to perhaps people kind of coming back to you a second time? And does that happen often, or are most people, once they're above and beyond and actually working, they pretty much, full speed ahead? Like,
Yeah.
Is there like any sort of I guess recidivism is not the right word.
Yeah, well, recidivism similar, but yeah, I'm just going to go with my time and understanding at Cherry Street, which is almost everyone, and I don't know of anybody that's returned personally, but almost everyone, once they are come through to this place that we're talking about, they have found themselves as a member of community, and fully healthy. Now, that doesn't include certain mental health issues where they really need to be in a different form of community, but that's a great question. I don't have good numbers for you, but I would say almost everybody that we have that goes through is solid, on solid footing. Yeah. Jean, before I get to you, I'm going to answer hers. She beat you. So, Rachel?
What are some of the limitations that you guys have, or places where you feel like you're not fully able to do as much as you would like to do?
Wow, that is a tremendous question. So we have, we are learning how to do what we're talking about, and we're seeking partnership in all of the community. And so one of our great limitations right now is getting the word out in the right way of how people can support both through volunteer and through donations. But we also are seeking to attract students because the meal is what I described to you, but the intake that comes into our Ready for Life and into our education isn't just through our shelters or just people who come in and need a meal. A lot of people come in and join in the Ready for Life because they want to just be a part of what we are doing for individuals, and they want to be in our vocational programs. We also have a number of employers that hire people with background checks, like our call center training. They really enjoy hiring people with felonies and criminal records because they know that those individuals know how to talk themselves out of handcuffs, so they're not really afraid of making a call or getting rejected in any way. So just getting the real word out, understanding what we're doing, and getting as many of the bodies of community and the resources from community to act with us. So thanks, Rachel. It was a great question.